This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
Welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. While the Trump criminal trial continues in New York, and there are many crises in the Middle East and elsewhere, the crisis at our U.S. southern border continues to really explode. And someone who recently saw the human toll of the massive illegal immigration catastrophe firsthand is our guest today, Dr. Shea Bradley-Farrell. She is the president of Counterpoint Institute for Policy, Research, and Education in Washington, D.C. Shea, it's great to have you here.
Rita, I am so glad to be back on with you. It's quite an honor. Thank you very much.
You just spent a whole bunch of time at the border and near the border. What was the most eye-opening of your visit?
It has changed, Rita. There is no border anymore. I used to say that we have an open border. I will say now that there is no border because of policy and because of gaps in the wall where there is no Border Patrol, there is no Texas DPS, the Department of Public Safety. But even if they were there in the gaps, I realized that it does not matter because the Border Patrol have been ordered by the Biden administration, once they catch illegals, to release them into the interior of the United States. And I talked with local officials there, law enforcement and attorneys, and they actually, especially in Kinney County, Texas, near Del Rio, they are arresting illegals for criminal trespass. Now, it has slowed down the amount of people trying to come across the border in that area, which, hey, consequences do keep people below the border. But the problem is even after they go through the criminal prosecution, eventually the local law enforcement has to release the illegals to the Border Patrol, who release them into the interior of the United States. And I'll finish right now with this. A emergency professional that I talked about working in one of the border processing facilities down there, which is there are these huge soft-sided tents set up in order to take in the huge influx of illegals. Anyway, he said to me, there is, what I'm saying to you right now, there is no border, and the government is only interested in how to process more illegals, not in squashing the crisis we have at the border. And I'd love to talk about that tonight because we have a human rights crisis at our border.
Tell me why you think this is continuing first, too. Why you think that they don't seem to be enforcing anything, just like you said, processing them.
If you're referring to the Biden administration, Rita, I've asked this myself many, many times, but it is blatantly true at this point that they are trying to skew the demographics in this country for election results because citizens, the population, when they do a population count for the census, it doesn't matter if you're a citizen. So that counts towards the Electoral College, that counts towards, representatives that come from that state. And the Biden administration, the Democrats, the liberals are truly trying to skew it. I used to think that was conspiracy theory. It is not. The other thing is it makes big money. NGOs at the border are making record number profits from getting contracts from our government in order to process illegals, or bring them over, help find them places to stay. Even our government agencies, like the Office of Refugee Resettlement, they went from, getting I think it was around, I'm going to mess up the numbers a little bit, but around a $2 billion budget every year. They're up to like a $7 billion budget each year. So people are getting jobs, even people at the border at the state level. That's something I talked about with people down there. The state governments, they're making money. They're getting jobs in order to process the illegals coming in. So I think it's a money-making scheme and a political agenda, Rita.
Are you stunned, as we're continuing on the political issue first, Shea, are you stunned that this president hasn't even issued an executive order? All he's done is lifted Trump's executive orders. But are you stunned that he hasn't even taken, it seems like, minute action at the border?
Well, I'm no longer stunned. I was stunned originally 3.5 years ago. He has been clear that he will not use the executive authority that he has in order to close the border. He has pretended, actually, and lied that he doesn't have that executive authority. He has it, at least under the Immigration and Nationality Act, to keep people below the border, to keep them on the border, or push them back or detain them. He has not used that authority. And I'll tell you something else, Rita. Our Congress has not used their authority to cut off the purse strings of funding Biden's open border policies, because the House, Republican-led, has the authority to cut off the appropriations, the money going towards these border policies, such as, carting illegal immigrants all over the country, their travel, the Mobile One app that we're funding in order to fly illegals into the country. And you know what, going back to the human aspect, Rita, this is something I was hearing from the ranchers, from the mothers, the wives, the local businesses down on the border this time and before, where they're saying Democrats and Republicans from Congress are coming down to see us, to talk to us. And we get hope that when they go back to D.C., they're going to do something, and they forget about us. They do nothing. And they're disheartened at this point, Rita. We can go into this more if you'd like, but it is like a war zone at some times down in the border, and no American should have to live like this.
Yeah, you know what? I'm stunned. If I lived at the border, I would think I'd be out there protesting every day. How frustrated are, first of all, the Americans on the U.S. side, because I can't imagine that they feel safe.
Yeah, you know what, Rita, you hit the nail on the head. And let me tell you, they repeatedly were telling me, too, it was like a gut punch to them that Mayorkas was not even brought up for a trial in the Senate. And, I have several stories. So let me give you just one or two here. I talked to emergency professionals, emergency services, medical professionals working in the Firefly facility there. It's a processing center. And one of the things that was brought to my attention that I've heard before, this isn't anything new, but it's taking a toll, Rita, is that, when the cartels bring women in to the United States, the medical professionals are saying that, they examine them, they've been raped often, they've been beaten, and it's women, of course, but it's teenagers, it's children, and it's taking a toll on our medical professionals, it's taking a toll on the Border Patrol. I had a Border Patrol agent tell me, within the Border Patrol, suicide is up, domestic violence is up, alcoholism is up. They are bearing the brunt of the fact that the Biden administration is willing to facilitate the brutal Mexican cartels bringing illegals over the border. And, Rita, nobody can come to our border through our border from Mexico, without collaborating with the cartels. If they do, they will be killed.
Wow. You also talked about some of these drop houses. You talked about women and kids. Talk about just how horrible it is, what is happening to some of these people at the expense of illegal immigration and being trafficked.
It's unbelievable. In the words of a senior Border Patrol official to me, drop houses or stash houses, as you said, are where bad things happen. Women are raped. Women are beaten. Illegals are exploited. They're held there so that they can be exploited. Their families in the interior of the United States must pay more money than originally agreed upon to get them out. Rita, women, this emergency professional that I was talking about, and I wrote an article recently in the Daily Signal about this called Who Will Tell Her Story? Because nobody will talk about this except good people like you. But you know what he told me? There are bracelets or barcodes. What do you call them? Kind of like those medical bracelets put on people when you enter the hospital.
Yeah, like the wristbands, right? Like the wristbands. Yep.
That is it, with barcodes on them so that the cartels can keep track of where these women are and can keep track of how much money they owe, because the cartels are going to be paid one way or the other. It's going to be through money, it's going to be through sex, or it's going to be through indentured servitude. And it just is astounding, Rita. It blows my mind that the Biden administration is turning a deaf ear to this. The mainstream media turns a deaf ear to this. The Biden administration says that they're the party of women. The Democrats say they're the party of women. Well, in addition to mixing transgenderism with every women's policy and initiative that I've seen them put out, they also don't care about the fact that women and children are being raped at the border.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
It is heartbreaking to hear these stories. You know what it makes me think of, Shea, is also there was a recent testimony, I believe it was Mayorkas, when he was asked on Capitol Hill, hey, can you tell us about these 85,000 kids that suddenly went missing? Yeah. Remember that? That was like over a year ago, I believe. Yeah. And he said, yeah, that is the case. We don't know where they are. 85,000 kids. I mean, you saw it firsthand, just how horrible. It makes me think, my gut, it just gets me so upset to think of what may be happening to these young children. And the fact that this administration, like you said, is now pounding their fist and saying, let's track down all 85,000 kids. Let's get them into safe locations. it's shocking to me that there's no attention by this administration about, I guess they look at it as like a casualty of an open border. But I mean, my goodness, where's the concern?
It's really crazy, isn't it? We're supposed to be a country founded on constitutional principles, humanity, the understanding and respect for humanity. And I have seen the Biden administration do, nothing but disrespect humanity. And you're so right. The Office of Refugee Resettlement is within HHS, the Health and Human Services Agency Department. And in this Office of Refugee Resettlement, or ORR, they take care of the kids that are unaccompanied, and they are supposed to place them with family members. Well, turns out that a lot of times these family members are not vetted. They don't actually know who they are. And so what you have to surmise is that some of these children are being trafficked, that they are in terrible situations. And, that's another thing that really, really blows my mind. And Rita, I don't mean to be so negative about all this, but I want Americans to understand what's going on, because the number one thing people say to me when I go down to the border, and I've been going down regularly since the Biden administration came into office because I couldn't believe what was going on. I've written a series of articles on the human side of it. But the number one thing that they say to me is, Shea, Americans don't understand the fear, the chaos, the trauma down here at the border. And, I spoke to one woman who is the wife of a Border Patrol agent. Her name is Allison Anderson. She said I could use her name. And she has lived on a ranch and had to defend her 3 small children from illegal aliens coming onto her property on a regular basis. I'm not talking about the ones that come up because they're hungry and they're dehydrated and ready to die, because she's taking care of those too. I'm talking about she's been chased by a man who was trying to rape her. I'm talking about illegals have surrounded her house with firearms, banging and trying to break open her door to get in. I'm talking about a rancher, Wayne King, who has lost $400,000 since Biden came into office because of illegals cutting holes in his fence, letting his livestock out, and having to, harbor himself in his home with his wife in the middle of the night as 10 to 15 camouflaged illegals surrounded their home with firearms trying to get in. No American, Rita, should ever have to live like this.
Yeah, that is stunning. And to think, like you just said, that's something you think of in a third world country, not in the greatest country in the world like our country. The other thing, too, that I found really powerful in the column that you wrote recently also, Shea, was about what's going on psychologically, even to some of the Border Patrol agents. You talked about a conversation, I think you had, it's a senior Border Patrol official in McAllen, Texas, who talked about what's going on with them, with suicide rates, domestic violence, how tough it is on our border agents.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, the emergency services professional that I talked to, I don't want to say his name because I don't want him to lose his job, but he said to me that the long-term social, psychological, emotional impacts of what is going on, with the human trafficking, the sex trafficking, the rape, the cartel brutalization. I mean, these impacts, we are going to feel them in the United States for years and years. And Rita, here's something he said to me that really kind of, struck me. But these young women, these teenagers, these girls, these women that have been raped by the cartels, he said he sees their trauma. Besides the physical examinations that he does, he sees the trauma that they've gone through in their eyes, and he wonders what will happen to them after they're processed through the Border Patrol. And, what will happen to them, and is what he said, and I agree with him, is they will be absorbed into these immigrant communities around the United States. But there's nothing set up to help these women. And some of them are teenagers, some of them are children, and they are going to school with our children, our grandchildren. They're in the communities, in our communities.
Yeah, and you brought up, you look at like even in New York. In New York, for example, it's through the roof. The cost that it's taking, the toll it's taking, the shelter is taking over some schools and other locations. Do you believe we're at a tipping point? And do you believe that this is absolutely going to be one of the biggest issues? You see it in all the polls for election year. And of course, we're looking at, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. You got Israel. You've got, obviously, as I mentioned, the Trump trial. You got Russia, Ukraine. But I don't think there is anything that people are more concerned about than a wide open border and no vetting, as it seems, at our border, and the cost on our communities and the security that it's taking on our communities.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. This is the number one issue for the election. And in my personal capacity, my personal opinion, I say that's why we must elect Trump, because I saw how he closed our borders. And Rita, I can talk more about the humane side of it, but statistically, let's talk about the fact, first of all, that we are at a very high alert for terrorism right now in the United States. We've had more and more threats since October 7th. Especially from groups like ISIS-K in Afghanistan. And here's the thing. Since Biden's been in office, we've had over 70,000 illegal aliens come in that are from special interest countries. What that means is they're from countries that harbor terrorists or promote terrorism, like Afghanistan. We've had over 6,000 come in from Afghanistan that we know of. From Syria, from Lebanon. So, I pay attention to Christopher Wray, the FBI director, and him talking quite openly and regularly to Congress and Senate about the fact that we are at a high terror alert. They are coming right now, flooding through our southern border. So those over 70,000 special interest aliens, you add them to the fact that we have over 113,000 coming from Chinese nationals coming in illegally. Now, that's, I wrote an article about that also in Washington Examiner about 2 months ago. So that number at this point is much higher. So, Rita, it only took 19 people.
Yeah, how scary. And by the way, I've interviewed like Gordon Chang, for example, Shea. And one of the things that, Gordon has talked about, as another great foreign policy analyst, he has really expressed concern of this enormous number, like you said, of Chinese, well-dressed Chinese men coming across the border. There apparently are locations where they're doing target practice in the United States and then found near a lab in California. You put all that together, that's really scary stuff. And just like you said, on September 11th, 19 hijackers, and now we have what could be 1 million or 2 million gotaways that we have no clue. How concerned are you?
Oh, I'm extremely concerned. I guess you can tell in the tone of my voice. I am very angry and very frustrated. Our top security experts in the government have even said that it's most likely we're going to have some sort of attack like happened at the Moscow massacre about, 6 weeks ago. And I believe in God. I have faith in the Lord. So I don't want to speak that forward, but we must pray. We must pray. And we've got to get the Biden administration out because they are hell-bent on destroying this country, Rita. I have come to that conclusion.
America's beverage companies are investing in America. We're American companies, making American products with American workers in America's hometowns. We're local bottlers and manufacturers, operating in all 50 states, employing more than 275,000 Americans in good-paying jobs, delivering for the nation, because we believe in the promise of America and the people who make it great. Learn more at WeDeliverForAmerica.org. Paid for by the American Beverage Association.
We off? 30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes.
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch. Oh, spritz, spritz. Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Kay, we're back. Use as directed.
Well, it's a scary premise because why else? Why would an American president allow a wide open border, especially repeatedly acknowledging, it's clear. You look at the images, it's clear as day. They finally admitted it's a crisis, but it seemed like it was only because of politics that they even admitted it. And yet they still continue to do nothing. And that's not just him, but it's also, of course, the head of Homeland Security. You mentioned Alejandro Mayorkas. It has to be a concerted effort, and you have to wonder why. And it's American public. I feel like we're going to feel this effects. Even if, President Trump gets elected and comes in November, he's got a job cut out for him because locating all these people and also finding the bad folks and also finding, sadly, some of these victims that you've talked about, too, as well.
And Rita, may I also mention, this is why I also think it's the greatest foreign policy issue of our election, because we have these terrorists, I believe, coming across our borders. The other thing is that we have China sending fentanyl to the Mexican cartels who mix fentanyl with other drugs and send it across our borders. It is now, fentanyl-related deaths are the number one killer of Americans ages 18 to 45. So you see, other countries can kill us through our open borders. And that's why I'm saying it's a very crucial issue. I have hope. In fact, I'm working on something at Counterpoint Institute called Vision 2025, so we can hit the ground running with good, sound foreign policy when we have a new administration. I believe in pro-action. So I'm giving you the bad news because we've got to be wise about it. We've got to know what we have to correct.
Yeah, absolutely. And know exactly what we're dealing with. And I've been saying, everybody, we need a warrior in the White House because we really do need someone who will come in, hit the ground running, fix it. I will say it was interesting because President Trump was asked, what would he do on day one? And he said, seal the border. And I think many Americans were clapping on that one,
Yeah, and I believe that he will do it, Rita. He just did very simple things like remain in Mexico. It's a migrant protection protocol, which keeps them below the border for, while they're waiting an asylum claim. He also very simply declared that our borders were closed. Biden declared that they're open. When people know they're open and there are no consequences for coming here, like catch and release, you get to be flown into the interior of the U.S., then they come here. If they know there are consequences, that's the first thing Trump will have to do is say our borders are closed, you will be arrested, and sent below the border. People will stop coming here.
Yeah, they need to know that it is illegal and that we will protect the sovereignty of our country. Dr. Shea Bradley-Farrell, you are terrific. And thank you so much for everything that you and also Counterpoint Institute are doing. And also, thank you for just also sharing the really powerful human toll stories because you saw the faces, you know what's going. And I think nothing's more powerful than seeing it firsthand and also sharing it with all of us. It really was revealing. And by the way, everybody be sure to subscribe and share to this podcast. Wow, it was very, very eye-opening and I think so educational. And Dr. Shea Bradley-Farrell, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Rita, thank you so much. I appreciate you and your work and for getting the word out on the truth. Thank you.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.